Sharkie Gamer here. So today we're taking a look at the Air Keyboard Conqueror. So this is basically a controller that features a gamepad, keyboard and air mouse built all into one small unit. This is made by Veho Cideko, at least I think that's how you pronounce their name, and it's made for PC, but it also works with the PlayStation 3. Now this comes in two colors, white as well as black. Now I've got the white version in front of me, but it also comes in the black color variation. So as you can see, I don't actually have the original packaging for this one. I actually bought this used and it didn't come with its original box. So let's get straight into its features. So first off, this is a wireless controller, so no cables at all. Its wireless range is about 10 meters, so you can have this about 10 meters away from your PC and still use this comfortably. It's rechargeable and you recharge it via a mini USB cable, so it's the same sort of cable you use to charge your PS3 controllers with. The battery itself, the manufacturer advertises that after fully charging it, which takes about 3 hours, that the battery will last about 20 hours of constant usage. Also, when you're not using the controller and you've placed it down, you're not using it, it's sitting idle, after about 1 minute the controller will turn itself off to save some power. That way you get the maximum out of your battery. And of course, to resume, you just kind of press any button and the controller powers back up again. So it's a kind of cool standby power save sort of feature. Going into the design of it. So as you can see, this is sort of a mixture of things. The first thing you can see, of course, is the gamepad portion of it. So firstly, it's got your dual analog sticks in the center here, and they also click down. They move quite smoothly, and of course they got that kind of concave sort of grip in between, where your thumb can rest nicely so it doesn't easily slip off the sticks while you're using it. So they're quite nice and smooth analog sticks. Moving up the top here, first up you've got your power button in the center, which also acts as a mode button. Either side of it you've actually got two buttons there, which are customizable. Up the top here, you actually got two LED indicators. This one here is your battery indicator, so when the battery's flat it'll actually go red. When you're charging and it's fully charged, it'll go green, letting you know the battery is charged. So it's sort of just a little battery indicator letting you know when you need to actually charge it. And over here is your connectivity indicator. So when you actually connect it to your PC, that'll actually be blue. That way you know it is actually connected and the PC is picking it up. Moving down, first up, you've actually got your D-pad at the side here. I'll try to get this in better focus. So the D-pad is on the side, and I have to say that this is quite a bad D-pad. I don't know if you can even see that, but when you do it, it sort of sticks a bit before it comes back up again. This is a really bad D-pad, like really bad. Look at that, that's actually stuck like that. So it sticks often. It feels awful to use. So this is probably the worst thing about this controller is the D-pad. It's just horrible. It'll still pick up the commands when you press it, but the fact that it sticks, it's just horrible to use. Over the side, you have your 4 function buttons, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, you can customize those to what you want them to do. And they press quite nicely, and they are pretty responsive, unlike the D-pad. On the back, you've got your standard kind of 4 shoulder buttons. And again, these are really nicely responsive. Really easy to press. So they're not bad to use at all. Now on the bottom of this controller, first up you've got this connection here, and that's your mini USB connection for charging. So that's where you plug your cable in, basically just to charge it back up and everything like that. And of course the battery that this comes with is in the back here, and it's a rechargeable right there. It kind of looks like a phone battery basically. Lock that back into place. So that's the back of it, and you can see the back has some nice kind of grips. as well as some rubber pads on the side, so it's nice to hold. So when you're holding it like this, you've actually got something quite nice to grip onto, and it is pretty comfortable to actually grip onto it. And you can kind of reach all those gamepad features really easily. Not that you'd want to really get to this D-pad, since the D-pad is so bad. But everything else you can still reach really easily. Quite easily to play a game with. Moving further down, we have a full QWERTY keyboard. As you can see, it is a full-sized keyboard. It's got all your standard things a normal keyboard would have. Now right at the bottom here, you'll notice these D buttons, D1, D2, D3, D4. Those are called definable buttons, which means you can actually define them to launch an application or customize them the way you want to. So say you want D1 to launch Microsoft Word. You can actually customize that using the software, and that way you can actually use these for shortcuts. Now the rest of the keys, for the most part, are just your standard keys. So you've got all your QWERTY, your letters, enter, backspace, etc. You've got your F keys at the top there. And this actually presses quite nicely. You can actually hear it. So while the keys do feel like buttons, not really keys on a keyboard, they actually respond pretty well. And when you get used to the size of the kind of keyboard, it's not too bad a size. Look, it'll take a little bit to get used to, and you might accidentally at first press a couple of keys at the same time, but for the most part it's actually pretty well designed, and it's pretty easy to type on. So you can see Alt Control, you've got a Windows key, Enter, it's got all your standard keys. Now there's another thing that this has as well, and that is an air mouse. So what is an air mouse? Well, basically it's a mouse that uses motion sensing to actually move your cursor on screen, rather than your traditional mouse that uses a laser sensor or an optical sensor that hits on the desk. So an air mouse is basically using the motion of this controller as your mouse movement. So it basically just acts like a mouse. So basically to do it, once you're connected and you've plugged it in, if you enable the mouse or disable it, because you can do either. If you don't want the mouse portion of this controller, you can actually disable it by pressing this little cursor here with that little one there. That's to disable or enable the mouse function. But if it's enabled, basically you move your cursor by actually moving this, which I'll show more in a moment. And of course you can use your mouse clicks by using the extra buttons on this. So on the side here you've got your left click, on the other side you've got your right click, and they click quite well, very responsive. And on the keyboard here, right in the center there, on the end, you've actually got a middle mouse click. So that acts sort of like your middle mouse button, which in some cases is when you click your scroll wheel down. So basically it has all your normal functions of a mouse as well as the motion. Now, it's really hard to explain an air mouse, so the easiest way is to just show it in action. So I'll just grab my laptop here, and we'll have a look at the actual air mouse in action. Okay, I'll just set up the laptop so you can actually see it. So first up, to connect this to your computer, you need your receiver. Now what you'll notice is the receiver is actually hidden inside the controller. Down the bottom here, you've actually got a little cover there. If you pull that cover up, inside is actually your receiver. Now this is the part I don't like. You have to actually shake the controller a little bit to get the actual receiver out enough, and then it'll fall out like that. Or you have to just grab the edge with your nail and try to pull it out. They could have made that a little bit better so it's a bit easier to get this out, but it is kind of cool because it does kind of keep it safe, so you're not going to lose this little USB receiver, because it is a really small USB receiver, as you can see. So to connect this to your computer, basically you just plug this into your standard USB ports, which are on the side of my laptop here. You plug that in, and then you turn the controller on. You turn it on by pressing that power button. It'll go blue, and you'll probably notice that flickering as well. And in a couple of moments it'll start detecting, and it started detecting already. So I'm going to try to get this in the same shot. You can see when I move this controller, it's actually moving the mouse cursor. Now you notice like it's going, the controller's over here, but the mouse cursor's over there. That is because it actually doesn't adjust. So to do that, you've got to press any button, move it, and then recenter it. So you can see wherever I move this, I can actually move it using the motion, and it's moving just like a mouse cursor. So for instance, if I wanted to go and open Microsoft Word, I can just move this over here, go to Microsoft Word right there. I'll just move this closer so you can see, and of course that is your left click there, and it helps to be on top of it. And that's going to open Microsoft Word, as you can see. And now if I start typing with this, you'll see that I just typed hello. So you can easily type with it, and even shortcuts like for instance your Alt F4 that normally closes Windows, you can go Alt F4, it says would you like to save it, and of course then you can use your mouse cursor if you want, which again, it's really up to you if you want to use the cursor. You can go here, and of course you can left click on no. There we go. And it works quite nicely. And of course if you didn't want that mouse function of it moving around, on the side here, if you press this little thing here, press that, it'll no longer move that mouse. So now I have to use my touchpad to move the mouse again. Alright, and of course you can simply enable it again and start using it again. So it's a cool little feature because then you can actually use it all at once. Now there is some software, which I'll open it. The first software that you get with it is the software here, which basically just tells you what device you have. But also with the software application, you can assign these definable buttons right here, and you can set an application like Word for instance, your browser, whatever you really want to customize it to, you can actually set it up. There's also another thing called custom key mapping, which is the more important one. So in this software here, if you press some buttons, it'll actually show what buttons you're pressing. Alright, so you know what button it is. And if you say you wanted to set something to the 3 for instance, right here you can actually just go set and say you want spacebar to that. You press space and you'll notice like up here in this corner it's actually set up as space there. Alright, and you can easily say clear if you've done an error. You can clear everything and it wipes it again, but you can virtually go to each of these buttons of the gamepad, set it to what you like, and that way you can go into your favorite game and use this gamepad to play games with. So it's a cool little bit of software, and allows you of course to have multiple profiles, so there's up to 3 profiles that you can actually save on it, and of course you can export as well as load profiles back in, so you don't actually have to delete them completely. So it's a really cool little software, and it adds a lot of customization to the actual gamepad. So I'll just move this out of the way. Put the receiver back in. So basically it works on that very well, and it's very customizable, so you can set it up to whatever you actually want to use it with, whatever software, and of course whatever games. Now that's the PC side of it, but what about PS3? PS3, it does work as basically a standard gamepad, so the gamepad will work just like your DualShock controller that you have on your PS3. The mouse and keyboard function, however, will only work as much as the PS3 supports a mouse and keyboard. So if you're a game and the game supports like a USB keyboard, then of course it's going to support this as part of that game chat. But if you're playing something else that doesn't support a mouse and keyboard, it's probably not going to support it whatsoever. However, the PS3 browser, when you're actually browsing the internet, will support the keyboard for typing, and it will support the air mouse for actually moving around and navigating your browser. So normally when you didn't have a mouse, you'd actually use the sticks to move the mouse around the PS3, but when you enter the browser and you've got this plugged in, it'll pick up the mouse straight away and work just like a mouse. So you can use the mouse function and the keyboard function in the PS3 browser, but just not with games. It's the same thing with PC, like you can use the gamepad for games and the keyboard and the mouse for navigating windows, and you can use the keyboard for typing, everything like that. But once you go into a game, you can't actually use that mouse for a game because you're using the gamepad. And if you use the gamepad, as soon as you press any button on the gamepad, it stops the mouse from tracking. And the reason they do that, of course, as you saw, when I actually put my controller out of frame a bit, the mouse would sort of be stuck somewhere here, and it'll be out of alignment. By holding a button and readjusting it, and you're realigning it, it starts moving equal to where the placement of the controller. So that's the same reason why you can't actually use that for gaming, because if you did, every time you pressed something here, it would stop the mouse from tracking. So the idea is you use the gamepad for gaming, use the mouse and the keyboard for navigating windows or browsing the internet, etc. So overall, it's a very good quality device. The Air Mouse actually works surprisingly well. It does get a little bit to get used to, because you've got to get used to obviously moving it like this to actually move your mouse cursor. But otherwise, it works really well. And even the realignment isn't too bad. Like, you do have to realign it quite often, but that's normal with these type of Air Mice. You always have to realign it. Because remember, with a normal mouse, if you're tracking like this, sometimes you'll actually do this to readjust yourself. So that's where it corrects it when a normal mouse, but this mouse doesn't have that. So you have to have some kind of button that stops it working, move the controller, stop it, and then retrack again. But overall, it works really well. The keyboard is easy to type on, it is a bit small, but like I say, you can get used to it fairly easily, so it's not too bad at all. Now the gamepad itself with games is pretty responsive to use, it's pretty comfortable to hold as well. Like I said, the only thing I really hate about the gamepad is this D-pad. It is horrible. The D-pad is by far the worst thing of this controller. I don't like this D-pad whatsoever. But the actual gamepad itself, the analog sticks work quite well. They click down fairly well. The other buttons respond as well, so there's no problems with them at all. Now, you're probably looking at this and thinking, what exactly is this gamepad aimed at? Because I mean, it's a gamepad, keyboard, and air mouse. Why would I need all those three in one unit? Well, this is more aimed at HTPCs. So a HTPC is basically a home theater PC. So basically a computer you plug into your TV that you'd probably watch movies or TV shows on, something like that. So this is ideal for a HTPC because you're probably in your lounge, you're probably sitting on your couch, and you probably have a wireless keyboard and mouse already plugged into it. Well, if you have something like this, then of course you can still use the mouse and keyboard function to navigate windows, maybe open your movie up, browse the internet, do whatever you want. But say you're bored of that and you kind of want to sit back and relax and maybe play a game on your HTPC, well, then you've got a gamepad on here as well, and you can just pick it up and use as a gamepad. And the other thing is, of course, you can use this with PS3, which means you could virtually unplug the receiver from your PC into your PS3 and use the same controller for PS3. That way you don't ever have to have a ton of controllers lying around, you just use the same controller for your HTPC as well as your PS3 in your sort of like lounge area. So it's more for convenience as well. So it is kind of viable, and I think this would be best for a HTPC. Overall, it's a very quality device, it works really well, and like I said, HTPCs, it's ideal use for that. Like, I don't think anyone would really consider buying this, especially if you're like a gamer and you really like a gaming PC. I don't think any of those hardcore gamers are going to buy something like this for their gaming PC, just because most of them prefer to use a professional or high standard gaming mouse and keyboard. So this is really more ideal for a HTPC that maybe you want to play the occasional game with a gamepad, but you also want to have a keyboard and mouse to use as well. So I think this is primarily aimed at HTPCs, or something, a PC maybe that you want to use. Maybe you're standing up away from your desk, and you still want to use the functions, but you don't want to be right in front of it with a traditional keyboard and mouse. Something like this would be ideal, because then you can still use a keyboard and mouse, and you've got the gamepad feature in case you need that gamepad. So these are generally pretty high in price as well, but you have to remember that you are getting a wireless gaming controller that features a gamepad, air mouse, and keyboard built all into one sort of package. So for that kind of price, you kind of think, okay, it's kind of worth it because you are getting basically 3 devices built into one. And like I said, it is high quality. The only thing I hate is that D-pad. That D-pad is horrible. I can't believe they released it with such a horrible D-pad. But Other than that, it's a great device. It works really well, and if you've got a home theater PC and you're looking for something that sort of you don't have to have a mouse and keyboard lying around, then this might be something for you, because then you can also pick it up and play games with it. So it's pretty cool. It could also be used, I guess, if you had a laptop and you were going away and you wanted something a little bit more convenient than using your laptop keyboard. Then of course you have a gamepad on this, and you can still use the mouse when you're actually on the actual laptop as well. So quite a few different uses. Just give another overview look of it. So yeah, pretty cool device. So you guys, thanks for watching. I am Sharkie Gamer. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll have heaps more gaming controller and accessories up very shortly. As always, feel free to leave a comment down below if you want to. If you liked this video, hit that like button. It really helps out a lot, guys. And of course, remember to share and favorite the video, as that always helps to spread my video around. Anyway guys, thanks for watching.